What's going on, guys? Zain here with Everything Vive. I want to welcome you back for another episode. I am joined by Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So first off, before we jump in, just want to apologize to everybody who was trying to download the episodes through iTunes last week. Just a quick shout out to the listeners who brought it to our attention that there was an error there, and we worked with our hosting service, our hosting provider, which, if anyone's interested, is Blueberry, and they're awesome. They actually just walked us through a lot of the issues that were happening, and it should be back up and running now. So for anyone who's having issues with episode number 61 on iTunes, it is back up and running. We appreciate the patience, and if there's anything else like that comes up in the future, definitely let us know. And just want to give a quick shout out to the people that told us about it. And I want to give a shout out by name. Andrew Gotham was the first one who emailed us. So Andrew, thank you so much. It got me digging in with Blueberry to find out what was going on. And it looked like it was just something with the feed. So we are back up and running. But Ronnie, how you doing, man? How's everything going?
Everything's been good. I had a super crazy week this past few days, but things are starting to get back to normal. I still have kind of a crazy couple of days coming up, but had a good weekend, and I'm looking forward to things fully getting back to normal. But no, things have been good, and I have some interesting interesting updates to share with everyone. Yep. So looking forward to talking.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that actually coincided with the errors that we were having on the podcast, just not being able to figure that out with you being super busy. So we are back at it. Episode number 62 starts right now. And to kick that off, on our last episode, we promised a Smashbox Arena Steam Key giveaway. So I want to announce the winner for that. And that person, this is your YouTube channel, is Spiffy Dizzy. So Spiffy Dizzy, you are the winner. Make sure you shoot us a message through YouTube on our channel. There's on the back end of the channel, you can message us your contact info, and we will make sure to get you the key for Smashbox Arena ASAP. Moving forward, we're hoping to get some more games to give away and such. But let's jump into the news. Ronnie, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we got a couple quick news topics to cover before you kind of give us the little update on your end in terms of VR. But let's we'll jump into the wireless stuff that I think is pretty fascinating. And everybody's waiting for wireless VR. So Quark VR and Rivvr wireless service. Let's start with Quark. Quark VR released a video teaser. I don't know if you had a chance to catch that one yet, Ronnie, but it's about 45 seconds, and it essentially just shows, I believe, their founder and CEO using the Vive with it. And
for those who don't remember, because I think was Quark VR the first wireless solution that we had covered?
They were one of the first, and what's unique about them is they're working directly with Valve. So it's a partnership that's obviously very vital and something that I think is obviously very beneficial to them, since they are able to work with Valve on it.
So real quick, so they're working with Valve, and as opposed to who's working with HTC? I'm trying to think.
Oh gosh, the name is slipping my mind right now. Hold on.
But no, that's fine. Because it was slipping my mind too. I mean, honestly, there's been several, and we haven't heard that much in the past couple months from many of these. So, shoot. Well, anyways, no, I just thought, I just wanted to point out. I mean, as of right now, on the regarding wireless solutions for the Vive, we essentially have multiple companies that are working on solutions. One of them sounds like is working directly with Valve, who is the one behind the underlying hardware.
TPcast, that's the one.
TPcast, there you go. So Quark VR is working on a wireless solution with Valve.
Yes, and TPcast is working with HTC.
With HTC, and then we also have some third parties that are I guess working with neither. So it's kind of interesting just for people out there that might be interested in kind of knowing who's working on what with who and all that. Like,
Yep.
I wonder what that'll mean in terms of compatibility.
Well, the two other names that have popped up for me and just stuff that we've covered are Rivvr, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and then also Quick VR. And it looks like
Okay.
these are the third-party solutions which could actually be cross-platform compatible. So if
Interesting.
somebody were to have both platforms, these might be more appealing since I'm sure. Well, I shouldn't say that I'm sure, but since TPCast is working directly with HTC, I would assume that it's optimized to work with the Vive. And if they, I'm sure they would probably expand maybe at some point, but TPCast was part of the Vive accelerator program, so. I would assume that the at least first generation would be optimized for the Vive. But yeah, getting back to Quark VR, they released that video. Like I said, it's only 45 seconds, and I was looking at the notes on it afterwards. It's 2 hours of gameplay on a single charge, and just from the video, you can see that it's connected to a battery pack and a switchboard on his belt, essentially. And so
Does it look really big, or it's like what?
It didn't look really big, but the wire is actually really long. So it's like because the wire is obviously, if you have a Vive, then you know how long the wire is roughly, but it kind of just hangs down all the way maybe to like where the guy's knees are and then loops back up to his belt. And so for me, like, I guess maybe that's not too big of an issue, but I feel like there's some like action-packed Vive games, or first one that comes to mind is something like the John Wick Chronicles, where I'm kneeling on the floor or jumping around or something, and so I just feel like there's still a potential for the wire to get in your way if you were to step on it or knock it loose from your belt or something like that. So I don't know. I mean, it's still cool to see. Like I said, I think competition is always going to breed innovation and make sure that we get the best types of technology coming out when it comes to VR and to wireless. So I'm definitely glad to see that. And the other one was Rivvr VR. And so I want to make sure I have the name correct here. Saw this on Reddit. Okay, yeah, saw this on Reddit, and it was Rob Newt was the username who posted the details, and it looks like he or she was able to get into that first wave and give like a $60 deposit for Rivvr VR. I want to say back in the end of 2016 is when I remember seeing that, and so they just got their first details or their email and posted that on Reddit, and so. Just looking at quickly, some of the bullet points were that they just started working with the manufacturer in China to make them, and that they intended to start shipping by the end of May. So I would say that this is the first wireless solution that actually has a ship date, although it's still tentative, obviously. But there's a month and date given. Rather than TPCast was just talked about in terms of Q2, but we're about a week away from Q2 already, or less than a week from Q2, and we still haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just cool for me to see Rivvr wireless being an option, and they said that they sent it out to journalists, so we will be seeing more of this out in the media soon, and. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Ben? Are you leaning towards any specific one, or is there something that jumps out to you just based on the information we have now?
I mean, early on, I was not early. I should say a couple of months ago. Just based on everything I knew, I was leaning towards waiting for TPCast because I had heard, great things about that. The only thing I was a little bit worried about was the setup, whether it was going to be difficult or not for me personally to mount something else. In addition to both of the Vive sensors, to my setup. So that was kind of, I was not super excited about that, but everything I had heard about the lack of latency and all of that with TPCast seemed really appealing to me. But that said, I mean, I haven't heard a ton about it lately. So yeah, I've just kind of, I'm kind of holding off to see more impressions, to see like what the actual shipped versions of these wireless solutions are going to look like prior to pulling the trigger. So, but yeah, I personally was leaning towards TPCast because I was mostly interested in getting the wireless solution for the Vive. But we'll have to see if there's a good solution. I mean, I don't know. I'm not exactly super fond of having extra cables either. That, I mean, it's it's nice to not be tethered, but it's also part of that benefit would also be not having to deal with cables. Period. So
Yeah,
uh,
no, that's definitely a fair point. So what's going to be interesting to see though, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, is how each of them are implemented because they're all using somewhat different technology when it comes to transmitting the signal wirelessly. So in going
mhm.
through the Quark VR and watching the video and just reading through, I didn't see anything about an extra sensor, which is what the TP-Cast is supposedly said to have. So,
Yeah,
if that's the case for someone like you, where you're talking about not wanting to deal with an extra sensor, this might almost make a little bit more sense because, or not more sense, but it might be a little bit more appealing if
yeah,
if the latency is going to be negligible or the differences in latency is going to be negligible across all the different options. I think setup and actual logistics of how that wireless
yeah,
signal is transmitted will probably play a bigger role then. And so,
yeah. It'll
if
have.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like it'll have to be a balance of all those things. Like originally, if you would have asked me a few months ago, I mean, all I cared about was low latency, low latency, low latency. But I mean, practically speaking, really, you want a combination of as low latency as possible, but you also want convenience. You want the setup to not be too, you know, too cumbersome and tricky. In addition to what you already have set up, so I feel like the best solution would be something that kind of balances everything.
yeah, no, I agree. And I wonder if there's almost a, we were talking about like early bird gets the worm in
Hmm.
in one sense, but then the other or the flip side of that is second mouse gets the cheese. So I wonder if maybe neither party or neither company wants to be the first one out there because there's a lot
Yeah.
that you can learn from the criticisms and reviews of the competitor that goes first and be able to quickly adapt and improve upon those and then release within a couple of months. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and who knows? I mean, we know in the background people are, Oculus is working on a new headset, Vive is working on a new headset. We have third parties going to be coming out with like this LG headset. Like, who knows? A lot of these plans tend to change over time, so it's also possible that some of these companies are developing these relationships and they're eventually going to decide to hold off on releasing it right now altogether to come out with something bigger and better on a future iteration of a headset. It I guess you just never know exactly, how things are going to turn out. So until it's actually released, all you can kind of do is wait and see.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm curious on a longer term outlook of it, though. I wonder how many of these companies might actually become maybe irrelevant in the next year or two if the next Vive or the next generation like Vive 2 or Rift number 2, what if they what if they come out already being wireless in a sense? You know what I mean? Like what if that's a built-in feature that HTC invests in and make sure that they include in the technology of the second generation, and so
Yeah,
therefore, you
exactly.
know what I mean. So
And I mean that's kind of why, like, I mean, if we know that Valve is working with certain solutions and HTC is like, one would assume if they were working with them, in some capacity on the standalone, uh, the standalone versions of these technologies, that they wouldn't be able to also at the same time just come out with their own that wouldn't like. My gut feeling tells me that if you're a TP cast or a Quark VR, your goal is to try to you know make a partnership with one of those companies so that you can then have some kind of a long term deal or contract with them,
or
and
potentially
maybe.
even be bought out by them or acquired by them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what. So yeah, like I totally agree with you, but I see that most likely being a win for one of these companies rather than a lot. Like, I don't see the companies working with HTC and Valve being left out to dry, so to speak, by them coming out with their own in house. I feel like the reason Valve and HTC are working with these companies is because they don't want to have to make that stuff from scratch on their own, and it makes more sense to them to partner with someone that's going to be able to speed up the process, maybe. So
Absolutely. So, well, we will still continue to stay in a holding pattern until until more dates and details come out across the board. But I think I'm with you in terms of leaning towards TP Cast, at least still as of this point. Just because of the fact that you know that it's going to be so well integrated with the Vive.
yeah,
And so, like unless something comes out that's going to be vastly different, Quark VR got my attention in the sense that they don't have an extra sensor, but that isn't like necessarily a make or break for me.
yeah,
At the end of the day, if it comes out of performance, right? You want the best performing
yeah.
headset
And if
out there. So
and I mean, just imagine. I mean, if you get a wireless system that makes the experience noticeably worse in terms of latency, but now you're wireless, are you really gonna? I mean, I personally don't know that I would feel great about. I mean, the wire isn't that cumbersome right now. It is sometimes, but other times, you don't notice it that much. So, are people gonna be willing to make a trade off and making the experience noticeably worse in order to, be wired? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think so. So,
well, ideally, they wouldn't have to. I mean, I would
yeah,
really, really hope that if there is a wireless solution coming out for any of these options, that there's no trade-off needed. Like, I mean, you wouldn't release it if there was some type of sacrifice, because I think most people wouldn't pay, a couple $100s for an accessory that was going to, necessarily make them decide to have that trade-off. Like it's just
yeah,
like you said, the wire isn't that bad, and if my experience is going to decrease a little bit in terms of like in headset versus not having to deal with the wires. I mean, it would depend a lot on where people place the value, but I would say you wouldn't get 100% across the board adoption of the technology at that point.
yep, agreed.
Cool, man. Okay, so let's go on to one more quick news point, which is just something that I think you're probably more excited about than I am, just since I'm still new to this. But Bethesda's Fallout 4 VR announcement looks like they are going to be announcing something big at E3 and have a demo booth. But what have you heard?
Yeah, no, basically the same thing. I mean, I'm going to be at E3 this year, so I'm excited to try to. Honestly, that's one of the when I heard that they were going to be showing off Fallout 4 VR, I immediately got. I mean, if I have to stand in line and waste a bunch of my time to go and see that, I mean, that's the thing I'm going to go see, because right now, as far as big projects that are on the you know big projects on the horizon for VR, there isn't anything bigger than Fallout 4 and VR and what Bethesda's doing there. So I'm super excited about that. They're saying that people are going to be blown away by it, so they're obviously not shy about meeting people's expectations. So let's see what they have to offer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew you were going to be at E3, so I'm excited for you to be able to try that out. And I figured once that came out, you were kind of jumping for joy with the opportunity.
For sure. And like I said, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's going to want to go see that. So, I mean, it could potentially mean a long line for me, but I mean, right now, like I said, there's little else that's going to garner as much attention in the VR space as Bethesda's next. They've been spending a lot of time adapting it, and so it'll be curious to see how they do that.
For sure, man. Well, I'm excited for you. So we'll see. And what is it, like 2 months away, or a little bit over 2 months away now at this point? So
it's
early June.
A little bit, because it's in June. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'll be expecting a full report from that demo booth right after you're done.
For sure. No, that'll be awesome.
All right. Well, let's get into what you and I were actually really excited to talk about for this episode before we hit game talk, and that is the fact that you made another VR investment.
Yep. So for those that have been listening on the show for quite a while, particularly at the beginning, I may have mentioned it then, but when I first purchased, I mean, I bought my Vive right when the Vive was released, and I pre-ordered it and got it, one of the first shipping one of the, that first couple weeks.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, at launch.
Yep, at launch. There you go. That's better said. So anyway, so I had pre-ordered an Oculus as well, and everybody kind of knows all of the issues that Oculus had shipping out its stock. So I ended up getting my Vive way before that, and after I had already kind of doubled down on thinking everything I had heard about the Lighthouse tracking system and everything. Just room scale VR sounded like how I wanted to experience VR more so than Oculus. But at the same time, I mean, I'm a VR enthusiast. I'd owned the original Oculus dev kit, and so I had doubled down, and I had decided to focus more on the room scale Vive stuff. But eventually, my Oculus did ship, and at the time, I figured, oh well, like I had already pre-ordered it. These are going to be low in stock. I can always, if I'm not interested in keeping the Oculus, I can always sell it or something like that. And so I let it come, and week after week kind of went by, and I didn't get around to trying to sell it for 2 or 3 months. And then after that, I did put it up a few times, but no one really ever bit at and I was just trying to sell it for what I got it for. But at the same time, I definitely wasn't interested in really lowering the price much more than that because I hadn't opened the thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, anyways, I mean, long story short, I wasn't able to sell it, and it's just been sitting there in its box, unopened, for about a year now. Because I think the launch date it's almost the anniversary. I think it was sometime in April technically when it was released. So I finally, with last week's sale and everything on, they lowered the price of the headset, Oculus did, as well as the touch controllers. And I saw that, the touch controllers now were $100, $99. And with that came quite a few games. So realistically, it seemed like it was the time to do it. So if I wasn't going to sell the Oculus, I might as well pick up the Oculus touch controllers because I really did have a great impression of those when I had tried them at Best Buy a few months ago, around launch. So I purchased the Touch, and I set up an Oculus today, and I played my first Oculus game here in my living room.
Oh man, you've gone to the dark side. It's over.
So I mean, I guess from someone that's been using a Vive for almost a year now, and then for the first time having to do all the Oculus stuff, I will say it was really pretty easy to do.
Well, I want to get like your full experience and
Sure.
comparison as unbiased as possible, and which I think that you can do because you're just a VR fan in general.
Exactly. So I will say that the presentation of the box is really slick. I mean, when you open the box, it feels like a very premium product. It's very, very like I said, like the box itself feels like of high quality, and you open it, everything is covered in cloth, and you open up it almost feels like a magnetic sealed box. You open it up and you have the headset in there, like laid out all nicely and everything. And so, yeah, first impression is strong.
What about setup though?
Yeah, setup was actually much easier than the Vive, though I don't think the Vive is very difficult to set up, to be honest with you. It's super straightforward, super easy. I'm lucky in that I have a lot of USB 3.0 ports on my computer already. For some people out there, that might be an issue because I know in the past, so whereas the Vive really works best with USB 2.0 ports, this requires USB 3.0, and not all USB 3.0 ports apparently work great with it. And if you're going to be using a touch, you have to use three USB ports in addition to the HDMI. So that's kind of crazy, actually. I mean, because you need one USB 3.0 port per sensor. The headset comes with a sensor, and then you also get a sensor with the touch controllers, and then the headset itself also has a USB. So you're talking 3 USB 3.0 ports that you need open, and they need to work with it. And then yeah. So, but I mean, that said, it's super easy. I mean, during the setup process, you go to oculus.com/setup, you download something, you install it, and then the setup process is super simple. You basically just plug everything in, put it. It was a little bit weird. Like I felt like I didn't really fully understand what it was doing when you first set up the actual trackers. It wants you to put them, on the left and right sides of your desk, and so that they face out into like the center of your play area, whatever they call it. And then once you if you're setting up with an Oculus Touch, they say, all right, put your Oculus Touch at eye level, and then click the trigger. All right, now that you've done that, you rotate the Oculus Touch so that the sensors are in the position that they are on your desk. And see, for someone that has only set up a Vive, like, you might not know what I mean, but like literally as I moved the Oculus Touch sensor, it moved on the computer screen the places where the cameras were set up. Like, it was really strange. Like, literally now...
So
like,
it moved the play area, essentially?
Not the play area. It literally moved where the computer understood the sensors to be located.
Gotcha, okay.
Like, it's like the sensors saw the touch controller, but then that didn't necessarily tell the computer where the sensors were. I had to then use the touch controller to move, so it basically like set 2 points relative to where I was holding the controller. But so now I had to move the controller, and when I move the controller, the 2 dots like get stuck with it, but move around with it. And I had to move those 2 dots, like I had to move my controller until the 2 dots were roughly in the same space as the sensors actually were on my desk, and then hit the trigger again, and it kind of locked the 2 sensors in place, if that makes sense. It was really.
I'm having trouble trying to visualize
really
my head.
Like,
okay.
Like imagine if you were setting up your Vive, and you know how, I mean, instantly it knows where the trackers are in the room, and you can see them up there.
Yeah.
Imagine if when you first used one of the controllers, you hit a trigger, and now as soon as you hit that trigger, whenever you move the controller, those 2 sensors move in space with the controller. Like it's locked, right?
Yeah.
And then imagine if you moved your hand, it was like it rotated the whole room based on your movement.
Yeah, okay. I think I get what you're saying.
It's weird. Like, I'm just saying it was strange. Like, I felt like I was doing something wrong. Like, it felt like it should know where the sensors were automatically, but it didn't. So anyways,
okay,
I mean, maybe someone out there. No, but I'm trying to explain to you because, like, I actually thought that portion of it was more difficult and kind of weird and not as intuitive as setting up a Vive is. Like,
okay, fair
the Vive system, you turn them on. Like, yeah, I guess it's not the easiest thing to find the ideal place to kind of stick them in your room. But once you do that, they know where they are. Like, it doesn't really matter where they are. Like,
and they can easily signal if they're in sync with one another too.
Yeah. So I've never had issues with that. But setting up this, it just seemed really strange. Like, it didn't. But anyways.
All right. Well, but you got it set up. How long did that take?
Oh, super. I mean, much quicker than a Vive, just because you don't have to actually set up the sensors like high up in the air and whatnot.
Gotcha.
You literally kind of set them on your desk. And actually, I mean, the first couple times, it wasn't really, it wasn't seeing me great. I moved them around a little bit, and then
just quickly to interject. Did you get a third sensor as well, or are you working with 2?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that I will.
Just curious, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I set up those two sensors, and it was like I said, other than that kind of weird, non-intuitive section where you had to click where the sensors actually were. Everything else was super simple, and then you're good to go. But the one thing that I mean, immediately when it started working in the game, I didn't think that I'm not impressed so far with how it tracks. And it's not so the latency is fine. That all works fine. I didn't feel like it was. It's just from time to time. I think because I'm so used to the Vive, maybe move outside of its tracking area, or it's very unforgiving when in terms of turning around. If you're used to a Vive where you can just turn in 360 degrees and never worry about it, all of a sudden with the Vive, I mean with the Oculus with a normal touch setup, it really doesn't want you to do that. As soon as you turn around to look behind you, there's a very good chance that it's going to lose tracking of the controllers or other things like that.
Tracking of the controllers, but what about the headset?
I never noticed it, but at the same time, there were a couple times here and there where it felt like the headset kind of got a little bit out of sync for a second.
Because I feel like that can be a very jarring feeling every time you turn around.
Yeah, it was. So the best way to put it is it was less. I felt like it was less jarring than when something goes wrong with the Vive, in my opinion. But it happened a little bit more frequently than I'm used to with the Vive. So whereas the Vive usually never breaks for me, but when it does, it's really weird.
Yeah, no, I've had that too.
With the Oculus, it seems to break a little bit more often, but when it breaks, it's not as bad. But overall,
okay.
but overall, it bothered me more because it just felt and like I said, I'm new to using an Oculus. Maybe I need to adjust my sensors a little bit. I don't know. But I think it's just the nature of how they want you to set it up. I don't think it's necessarily a limitation of the hardware. I do think the sensors are probably fine. I don't think from what I understand, they're not as great as the Lighthouse sensors, but I think they're pretty good. But I think when they want you to stand and set these things on your desk, I think just generally that limits the amount that you're going to be able to move around in space. So using the two on your desk rather than putting them up high that where they're going to have a great vantage point of view at all times, I think is going to cause issues. It more so than if it was exactly the same technology, but they gave you some kind of mounting hardware and told you we want these in these kind of weird positions. If you think about it, the Vive is they make you put these in the ideal locations to have the best tracking experience possible. Whereas the Oculus setup to me seems like they kind of looked at it as, well, where is someone going to want to put the sensor? And then they kind of designed around that to where, okay, well, people are going to be at their computer and that means they're going to have a desk. So they're going to want to set the sensors on their desk. So then so then the sensors kind of, work around the limitations of, well, if you're going to set up two sensors, what's the best way to do that if you're limited in this kind of space,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, and obviously it's different if you have a third sensor and all that stuff. And I don't really know how that would work, what they would give you if that third sensor is, because this sensor, I mean, it has a little teeny stand, it's almost like a mini, mic, it's a really small stand. So I don't know if the third sensor is just another one of these, it seems kind of like a weird solution. And I definitely don't think that this stuff is made for room scale. Gotcha.
At any rate,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah. So all that said, I think the touch controllers are great. Um, Again, there's some limitations in terms of I'm not super impressed yet with how it detects your hands. Like it's less about detecting your hands and more about mimicking hands based on where you pull down on the controller. So I wouldn't say like when I think about the touch controllers, I don't think of it in terms of it actually seeing your fingers. It's more like they've placed triggers in places on the controller to
Mm-hmm.
where if you're touching those or holding them down, um, it has a good sense of what you must be doing with your hand and mimics that in the game. So like the way the grip button makes you pull your fingers in, like it, in the game, if you're not pulling the trigger with your index finger, but you're pulling the grip button with your other three fingers, it knows then that you're pointing, so it makes like a pointing finger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, because I remember like the gestures that they were, really excited about when the controllers came out.
Yeah,
But
no, but
so,
all that stuff is cool. It's very cool. It's
what
just
about like
not like,
ergonomics and stuff though? Like in terms of controllers,
oh,
like
great. You
like
don't
how would you
feel it
compare
like
them to the wands?
um. It's like it. I mean it. Hmm. I mean they feel better for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And actually going from playing a few touch games to then switching over to the Vive and doing some stuff with the wands. The wands did feel like far less comfortable because it feels like the wands are kind of like a one size fits all kind of thing. Whereas, and I haven't played enough with the Oculus Touch to see how it's going to feel in other types of setups. The only game I really played, like I guess spoiler, is Robo Recall.
Well, I mean, if you're ready, I'm saying I think we can just transition to our game talk because that's going to be your
Yeah,
game. So how is the gameplay mechanics? And you can talk specifically about
yeah. So
Robo
I mean, but
Recall.
just to finish on the touch control. I mean, in that game, it's basically your hand and you're holding guns, so it's super intuitive because, like, basically it lets you the way you hold the touch controller. It's just like, I mean, it's very. It feels like it just fits right in your hand, and so there isn't. It's not like you're holding something large. It's more like
Mm-hmm.
there's just something that your hand is kind of just naturally kind of like inserted into kind of.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's but that said, like, man, it feels great, and it makes me really excited about those Valve controllers that they're working on because I think you can do with some of the ways the button. I mean, it doesn't require you to use a lot of the other buttons on the Oculus Touch controller, at least in the game that I played.
Are there any
But
other buttons aside from? Yeah, I guess in just comparison to the wands, like okay, you have the trigger
I'd
and the
say,
grip, but like and the
yeah.
menu button. But aside from that, was there anything else that was added in that was you felt was
I mean,
essential
so
or
I
really
didn't.
game changing?
I mean, it's just the placement of everything is better. I think, um, like especially in Robo Recall, I don't know what that's going to be like necessarily with on the Vive, but with the touch controllers, I mean, the the grip button feels much more like a real grip than the grip button does on the wands. Because for me, like the thing I like about the wands, in a sense, better, but there's kind of a trade off, is that you really have to push those grip buttons to really activate them. So while
And
you're
sometimes people
holding,
have a little difficulty finding them or getting to them too.
yeah, exactly. But like, so that's like a blessing and a curse, right? Like on the it's a benefit because you don't hit them by accident, but then it's hard to actually hit them when you need to sometimes. And they're kind of a little bit down low. Like it doesn't necessarily feel like they're right. Like you kind of have to hit them more with like your pinky. Like they're not like the trigger. I mean the grip button on the Oculus Touch controller is very much like right where it's as easy to hit with your like middle finger down to your pinky, like those three fingers.
Uh huh.
It's as easy to hit with those as the trigger is with your index finger. Like it's literally, it feels like another trigger. It's like there's two triggers on each of these controllers. There's a trigger that is your grip trigger, and then there's a trigger that's your actual index finger trigger. That's how it feels. And so the benefit then is when you're actually holding, like let's say you're holding a gun in a game like Robo Recall, it's literally, it feels like you're holding a gun. Like it's, you wrap those three fingers around the controller, and by doing that, you're pushing on that grip trigger button, and it pulls in just like a trigger, and it's very, very, like it feels like you're actually holding down the trigger.
Yeah.
Or not the,
Okay.
it feels like
Gotcha.
you're gripping something, I should say.
Okay.
So and then your index finger is still free to pull the actual trigger on the gun. So it feels, I mean, like holding guns using the grip buttons on the Oculus Touch is much more satisfying to me and much more intuitive than holding the trigger on, or I mean, holding the grip button on the wand is to hold a gun using the Vive. So like my best analogy, like, and I haven't played this game on the Oculus, but raw data, for example, there's a way in raw data that you can set up the controls where you have to hold down the grip button in order to hold your gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you let go of the grip button, you let go of the gun.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and I think that, and other games have done that too, but like just in general. So for me, using the Vive controller and the grip button on the Vive controller, the Vive wand in that fashion, to me feels kind of weird. Like holding down that grip button all the time, it doesn't feel natural, and it's kind of, after a while, feels like I'm kind of pressuring my hand in a way that it doesn't want to really be pressured.
As opposed to feeling more natural with the touch.
With the touch, it feels like if I close my hand on something, like holding the grip button feels like I'm just closing my hand on something. So it feels much more natural and comfortable to hold it for extended periods of time, to actually hold the gun. And so I guess transitioning there to Robo Recall. Oh, well, actually, one more thing just on the hardware side. I was surprised, as slick as the headset is for the Oculus, I actually like the headset for the Vive better. And I didn't think that I thought that one of the things that I was going to like more about the Oculus was just the ergonomics.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And I mean, it is slick. Like it looks slick and it feels like it's well made and everything. But the way the strap kind of latches onto your head versus, I actually think the straps on the Vive headset as they came, with the launch units and everything, secures the headset a lot better on your face than the Oculus. It feels like it's more of a tight fit. And maybe it's just because I've been using it for so long, and I like it, feeling nice and secure, so that I can, when I'm doing my movements and everything. It's not that the Oculus Rift feels like it's going to come off of your head. It just doesn't feel super secure and tight, and so you feel a little bit. It feels like you're wearing something, as opposed to, I mean, again, I'm used to the Vive, so I'm used to the weight and all that, but like, once the Vive is on your face, it feels like you're just seeing, right?
Yeah.
But part of the Oculus issue too is that the field of view for me is noticeably smaller. I mean, right away when you put the headset on your face, you see on your the right and left periphery of your vision, black bars. Like, it's literally like, it feels like,
okay. That obvious?
It's I think if you're used to a Vive, especially, I mean, I kind of cheated a little bit because I have one of the VR cover, like foam, like leather things on my, I have the small one, so it helps to create a wider field of view because it's closer to your face.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, night and day for me.
Wow, okay.
Using my Vive with the VR. With the VR cover, like 6mm, I think, like the small cover, the small foam padding, is much wider view. And here it's definitely, instead of a rounded view, it's definitely like a straight line, and it's very noticeable. So for me, I feel like it's much more. I feel like I'm looking through like some kind of scuba gear or something more so than I do when I'm in the Vive. The Vive has different drawbacks. I mean, the cable is a little bit heavier. Um,
The whole headset's a
so
little bit heavier too.
the whole headset is definitely noticeably heavier.
What about the kind of like light bleeding through, just above the bridge of your nose? I've heard that is an issue with Oculus as well as compared to
Yeah,
Vive.
you notice it, but that didn't break it for like it. I didn't really worry about that so much. I didn't think it was big enough. At least for me, it's not as a big enough hole as like some people. Like I wouldn't be able to really look out of it to see what I'm doing or anything like
Gotcha.
that.
It
It's like
wasn't like
very
as
small.
immersion breaking as people
No,
say
no,
it is.
no. But like the thing that I noticed like more so is just that the headset in general feels like it's not as securely fastened to my face as the Vives. And and like I said, the Vive, like if I'm gonna have a headset on, like this headset is not easy to take off. Like the Rift doesn't come off easily. Neither does the Vive. But if I'm gonna have something on my face that's hard to take off, I'd rather have it really feel secure than kind of not feel
Yeah.
secure and not be easy to
No,
take off.
I
Like,
did try the Rift at a demo, and I remember it being rather complicated and kind of frustrating to take on and off. So
yeah,
it's funny that you're mentioning the same thing because I don't know if it was
it,
just me or the way that the guy was putting it on, but it sounds like it might
yeah.
be
No,
just
and I mean,
in comparison.
I'm sure if I take off the straps every time, like I do with my Vive, it wouldn't be as hard. But they kind of make it where how you kind of pull the strap. Like there's Velcro straps on the sides and the top, just like the Vive. But then there's also some kind of springing action in the. Excuse me, hold on. There's also some springing action to kind of pull the because it secures on the back of your head to carry some of the weight, and it has kind of more structurally rigid sides, and it lets you kind of pull it in and out. And so, to me, anyways, it seems like it encourages you to, once you have the strap set up for your head, to not worry about that anymore, and then just to take it on and off using kind of the spring, loaded like back thing. And to me, doing that kind of hurt, like because I tend to like it a little bit tighter, and so I think I put the straps tight on my head, and then in order to get it on and off without adjusting the straps, then becomes work. So maybe it's just me needing to, not be take the lazy approach on getting it on and off, and to actually,
Well, I'm
you
sure
know,
you're not the only one though.
yeah, but it is less like it does hurt a little bit more. Like it's a little bit more annoying to kind of take on and off than for me anyways to do the Vive, because the Vive I'm very very quick now at just like ripping the straps off on the sides and just taking the thing off.
And
And
some people are able to just slide it up and down. What I've seen. So
yeah, so at any rate, like so that's that. And then the other thing, I mean, there's pros and cons to all these things. For me at least, I see noticeably less God rays. So it's that distortion where if something's really bright in the Vive, you kind of see it reflect off of the rings on the lenses, and so it's kind of like a glare. Well, you get less of that with the Oculus, but after using it for a while, I think the reason you get that less is because I think the screens are overall less bright. So because the brightness isn't as high, it doesn't reflect as much. And I think that's the reason. But then you have the downside of just the images look a little bit more washed out, a little bit less bright compared to the Vive. So I don't know if I think it's kind of like a balancing thing. Like for some people, they're going to really like the brightness on the Vive more. And for other people, they're going to like, they're going to be distracted by the God rays more on the Vive, and they'd prefer it to be less bright with the Oculus. So that's kind of like a, you either like one or you don't
yeah, no,
kind
that's
of
fair.
thing, and
Okay.
it's balanced. But yeah, the field of view though to me is definitely noticeably lower, or yeah, it's definitely less of a field of view in the Rift than the Vive, and the Vive just feels like it's more secure in my face, especially with my VR cover peripheral. So I wonder if that could get any better if I bought a special face foam mask thing for my Rift. I don't know, but that was just my first impression. So and then the other thing was just that the cord on the Oculus Rift is much shorter than the Vive, and obviously that's because the intended use is much different. But I mean, even in the small area that I was using for my Rift, um, the way I have my system, um, you know, like positioned in my desk and everything, um, it was really it kind of caused some issues. Like it was too like I would like to, and it does come with an extension cable for USB, but nothing for the HDMI. So I would like to try to get extension cables or something for it potentially, but those are just some quick on the hardware stuff.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Well, let's transition over to game talk then and talk because
yeah.
I'm excited to hear about Robo Recall.
So Robo Recall is great. Like in all honesty, if there's one thing I can say about my experience so far is I just wish Robo Recall came out for the Vive, because I felt restricted with the Rift a little bit, just in terms of I felt like anytime I turned around, things would get kind of wonky and out of sync because I'm used to being able to turn around in VR. So that's something I need to get more used to. And then also just I had it set up to be optimal, an optical play area with the Rift, but it was a much smaller area than what I have set up for the Vive. And so for that reason too, I felt kind of a little bit claustrophobic in terms of how I was able to move around and stuff. But I mean, the Rift is made for smaller rooms, so I don't know if that's whatever it is, what it is.
I mean, what was because I don't know anything about Robo Recall to be honest. Like, I mean, what was the movement system like?
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I mean, just in general, it was a very polished. I don't think. I mean, the more I think about it, I don't think there's any game that I've played on the Vive yet that feels as polished and as like just well done as Robo Recall on the Oculus. And so Robo Recall is. I mean, it kind of feels like it's a wave based shooter. First of all, kind of. There is like teleportation, so you can move around in the environment. So you're not stuck to one place. But usually, what they do is they have you move to one place, stand there, and shoot a bunch of guys for a while, and then when you've taken them all out, it then asks you to move to the next spot. And you can move around in that area, but they kind of like they have you move to an area and then fight there for a while, and you can teleport around in that area and fight things for a while. But they mostly don't make you do that too much. They mostly just kind of, if you really wanted to, you could probably stay in one area, shoot everything, and then once you're done with that area, move on. But basically the setup, so it's like the menus are really slick. Kind of feels like Street Fighter-y, like 80s and 90s arcade.
Yeah.
It's like Robo Recall. And like the fonts and everything, it just really reminds me of like late 80s, early 90s arcade
games, yeah.
Yeah. And the graphics are great, and it starts you out, I mean, not to give too much away. I mean, this is like the first few minutes anyways, but basically you're in this city like New York, or it's just I don't remember if they say what the city was or not, but large city, and it's in the future. There's robots everywhere. I'm not sure if you're a robot or not. It doesn't really say, at least not yet. But everyone on the street, there's just robots everywhere. There's just these like humanoid looking robots, but they're very, I am a robot, like very robot-y, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like funny, like literally like everything's a robot. There's like a robot like doing shopping bags, and like a robot, like just everybody is a robot. And there's like a TV playing in one of in like a window on like a street corner, and all these robots are gathered around the TV to see what it's saying, because breaking news, like robots are there's some kind of defect that are causing robots to go crazy or something. And all of a sudden, all the robots go crazy around you and turn on you, and then it starts the game. And then it takes you to a menu where you do all the normal tutorial stuff. And essentially what it is, I mean, the idea behind the game is that you're in a world where there's robots everywhere, and the robots are going crazy. And so you're almost like a repo man. Like that's why it's called Robo Recall. You're literally going and taking out all these robots that have like gone crazy from this defect. And so they like drop you in, and you're supposed to take out all the robots.
So,
and that's
okay. No, go ahead. Finish.
yeah. So that's kind of the setup on the game. So you're taking out all these robots, but then the mechanics of it are really, really well done. And I've only played like the first level or so of the game so far, but just like you grab pistols from your hips, like you have 2 holsters, and each pistol has like 20 bullets or something. But then they explain it away like, oh, they're going to transport you. Anytime you run out, you need a new pistol, they'll transport you a new one in your holster. And so you basically take out your pistols, you hold them with the grip button. So you're actually like at any time, if you release the grip button and just like dart your hand out, you can throw your gun, right? And that's also a weapon. So you just grab out your guns and shoot, and then at any time you want, you can just throw the gun at kill the robot by throwing your gun. Grab another gun. There's instantly a new gun in your holster, and you're shooting more gun and then throwing them. And so like literally, if you wanted to, you could just grab a gun, throw it, grab a gun, throw it, grab a gun, throw it, instead of like actually shooting if you really wanted to. It's like it's another way to like just manipulate things.
Mm-hmm.
And then likewise, if instead of grabbing the pistol from your holster, if one of the robots is close to you, you can just grab the robot. You can like pull the robot's arm off and hit it, like beat it with its own arm and just like kill it that way.
That's pretty cool.
Pull
is it cartoonish
off.
In a sense?
No, it's actually like pretty good graphics.
Oh,
like,
okay, all right.
Like actually really detailed. Like when you yank the robot's head off, it doesn't just come off. There's like wires like coming off of the head, and like they're like everything is like really, really looks great. I mean, if there's one complaint about it's that as much interaction as there is with the enemies and like the stuff that's coming at you, there isn't any interaction with like the environment around you, which feels kind of weird. So like there's a lot of, I mean, it's really detailed and it looks really good, like realistic graphics. Like there's cars on the road and all that kind of stuff. And if you shoot the cars, it doesn't do anything. It just like bounces off. So that's kind of lame considering like how great it is when you're shooting. Like when you kill these robots, like it looks great and it feels great. Mm-hmm. And literally there's like little spider robots. They jump on you. You can just grab them in the air and throw them at the other robots. Or like, and then the other thing that's cool is like, if the robots shoot at you with their own guns, it kind of slows down just a little bit, and you can just grab the bullet out of the air, and then you throw it back at them, and when you throw it, it just turns into a real bullet and just like kills them. So you can like grab their bullets out of the air, you can throw it back at them, and it's like it's shot out of your gun. You can throw your pistols at them. You can grab. Eventually, you get like shotguns and different kind of weapons and stuff. You can like pull those off your back and shoot them, and like. Another cool thing is, let's say, remember how I told you how, the guns themselves are kind of like disposable? So you could like shoot 5 shots and then just throw the gun at the guy, kill him that way, and grab another gun and start firing again. Well, let's say if you wanted to, your gun, let's say you run out of bullets on one of your pistols, instead of just throwing it at them and then like forgetting about it, you can literally you can shoot all your bullets out of your gun, throw your gun at a robot, and if you throw it like straight on, it gets into slow-mo, it bounces off of them, and you can grab it back, and now it's reloaded.
Huh. Wow.
So literally, you can like throw your gun at them, bounce it off their head, and then grab it back in the air and start shooting it again. And it reloads your gun that way.
It's perfect like action sequence.
Yeah, it's like really silly, like fun, like it's really arcadey, but realistic too, and
Well,
like really. So it's cool. Like it feels like it really is like really frenetic, and it feels like if you are fast enough, you can kind of do anything. Like it's not easy. Like I mean, they throw enough at you to where if you're not paying attention, there will be like you will get hit by bullets and all that kind of stuff. But it feels like it's always within your control if you're fast enough and paying attention enough for you to literally catch every bullet or ricochet every bullet with your gun and catch every crab in the air and throw them and kill every like it feels like if you're on top of your game that literally nothing around you is going to touch you even though they're all shooting at you all at the same time. Like it's kind of crazy.
So how does it compare to the game that's coming to mind as Raw Data, where you're fighting robots as well? How would you compare it side by side?
Yeah, so it just feels a lot more polished than that. But it feels, I mean, to some extent, it does a little bit less. Like I mean, at least so far, there aren't any swords or anything like that. Teleporting around the room, that kind of thing. Like, I don't feel like it does as great of a job of really like requiring you to move around. I think because it's an Oculus game, everything is more geared towards like you're on streets that are kind of, contained within buildings. And I feel like it does that for a reason. So you're kind of contained within like, it always feels like most of what's happening around you is like in your periphery and in front of you rather than all around you as much as like a game like Raw Data. And again, it could get all around you if you teleport to the wrong place, obviously. But I feel like just the way they must have designed that game, because they know if you turn around too much with the Oculus, it'll lose tracking. So I feel like they must be doing a pretty good job of like figuring out how to keep things like within the correct place on you so that you're not doing that too often.
Yeah, just to optimize it for gameplay, I'm sure.
Yeah. Those are some differences. But then, yeah, the actual contact with the enemies feels so much better in Robo Recall to me. And the graphics are really a lot better. I think it runs a lot better because honestly, it looks better to me than it looks like the animations are where it's at. Like I think where sometimes things feel a little bit less polished, like as great looking as Raw Data is in a lot of ways, there's things about when you're actually interacting with the enemies that don't feel right. Like when you do hit them with your sword or when you're shooting, like it feels like they don't always interact. Like they don't. I don't know. Like there's something about how the enemies in Robo Recall react to you and the way and your guns and your weapons and all that seems like it just looks and feels better. And I think a lot of it has to do with the animation and just the way like everything moves and reacts the way it should in Robo Recall as opposed to just being like kind of ragdoll physics-y type stuff in Raw
that makes
Data.
sense. Okay.
So that's kind of those are kind of where, but Raw Data does to some degree let you do a little bit more. I think the mechanics that are in the mechanics that are in Robo Recall are more polished and feel kind of better. But then, yeah, but it doesn't feel as open, I guess. It feels like it was much more designed to be a certain type of experience than Raw Data was. And also, I should say, I mean, I haven't played it enough, but a major factor is I don't think Robo Recall. I'm probably wrong on this. I need to play more on it, but I didn't get a sense, at least in my early play, that it was as multiplayer focused as Raw Data. So if there is multiplayer in Robo Recall, there might be. It didn't look like it but I haven't read up on the game. This is just my experience at the beginning. But like Raw Data feels like even when you're playing single player, after you've played it multiplayer, you can tell like, oh, it was kind of made for multiplayer in a way, right? Like the environments and everything, it just feels like it works that much better with two people. Whereas
potentially more too in the future, I think.
Yeah, potential. And I could see that working great too. But like in Robo Recall, it feels like instead everything's focused on you. Like I don't think. I mean, again, I could be wrong if there is a multiplayer, but like at least the levels that I played, everything is like seems very much crafted in a way to make you feel like you're in the middle of all the action. And I don't think it would work as well if you had multiple people in there. But
Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, it sounds like you gave a pretty comprehensive overview of your experience. Sounds like you're pretty excited about Robo Recall.
yeah,
and
no,
the
it seems
games.
it seemed really cool. So and I mean, and I mentioned that because I think Oculus learned a thing or two about how their store works because if you're not of the faint of heart in terms of kind of messing with files and whatnot, my understanding is that you can get Robo Recall to work on the Vive without using Revive. So it's my understanding that you can definitely do that. Like you can get Robo Recall to work pretty well with the Vive.
Yeah,
And
I've
if
heard the
you're
same thing too.
yeah, and if you're able to do that, I mean, I think people should go check it out because there really isn't anything quite as polished as that I've played at least in a while. It's great. So I think
It sounds
and
like
so,
we're losing you to the other side now.
no because well I mentioned this briefly before. Like other than the touch controllers, if I could play using my Vive headset and the Vive trackers, that would make it that much better because I did feel like I was running into limitations with the tracking. Like at least how I have it set up in my living room, and maybe next week I'll report that I messed with it and it's working better now. And
You know what you should try too also is see if you can get it working on Revive and then give a side-by-side comparison to how it goes.
I might have to do that because especially since I have it anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because 100%, like, I mean, the tracking every now and then would kind of give up on me, or like I would try to turn around too much and something would lose, and I'd realize, oh, like I need to turn around. Like it was every now and then that just my Viveness kind of rubbed off while I was playing, and it kind of broke it a little bit. So that's
Gotcha.
what like, so I mean, my first impressions is that some of the games that Oculus is working on with some of these developers. I mean, obviously Epic makes great games, but I mean, yeah, I can't help but when I see some of these titles, think to myself that there's no reason why this stuff should be limited to one platform. I mean, they should. I mean, and that's what I was going to get at with Lucky's Tale and some of the other titles that came free with the Oculus Rift. Initially, they were just free to anyone that had access to the store. And so if you use Revive, you could gain access to that game. Regardless of whether you actually purchased it or not. So that was kind of cool. But it was kind of a workaround, right? Like, I mean, Vive owners shouldn't be able to access a free game that was given out by Oculus.
Yeah.
So they did that. So with these games, with the games that came free with the Touch, I noticed that before the Touch actually activated, those games were for purchase in the store, even though they required touch controllers. So like Robo Recall was like $30 in the Oculus store, and it said Oculus touch controllers required. But then as soon as it registered, like as soon as you restarted the store after using your Oculus touch controllers for the first time, that game and the other ones that came free with it, like unlocked, and now all of a sudden I could download them and they were in my library for free. And so I can't help but feel like the reason it's that way is because they kind of know that there might be people trying to access those titles using Revive or something else.
I'm sure.
And they want those people to pay for it.
I'm sure they have some type of way to be able to figure out who's trying to access the title. So that makes a little sense.
But it's interesting because like with the original titles that came with the Oculus, they didn't. So like Lucky's Tale, for example, like that's the one that like I always remember is it came free with the Oculus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way they did it was just free for everyone that had an Oculus, so they just had it free in the store. And so if you downloaded Revive, you got to play that game, a full title, for free. And this could have been done the same way. Instead, they found a way to make it so that you'd have to pay for it otherwise. And so I just thought that was kind of cool because it, to me anyways, that makes it look like they're in a way encouraging people that are going to play it with the Vive to just purchase it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's how they're going to make the revenue from it. So
yeah. So it's interesting. So, I mean, so like I said, like to that extent, like if you're able to get it to work with your Vive, like for people out there that, I mean, especially if you're purchasing it, I see nothing wrong with purchasing the title and then getting it to work with your Vive, and you should have the ability to play it, you know?
Well, for next time, see if you can get it to work on Revive, and I'd love to hear the experience there.
Yeah, or without Revive, however it is.
However you can get it to run, but
cool. No, because there, without a doubt, my first experience of using the Oculus is that the tracking system on the Vive is clearly better, and there are clear limitations about how you can play an Oculus game. So if you're used to using a Vive, I think to some extent playing an Oculus, it feels very similar, but it feels just a little bit more limiting. You're usually going to be in a smaller area, and you're not going to be able to move around as much. Otherwise, you're going to be losing tracking. And I'm sure you can help that by getting another sensor. But my understanding is even getting a third sensor, like, it's not perfect, you know? So I think that's just the difference, is that Oculus games really are made to be more in one single area, mostly standing, not moving around so much as compared to the Vive. And I mean,
all right.
I can totally see where for some people who care, like they don't have the room to have a great room scale setup. And if you're those kind of people and you don't want to move furniture around and all that kind of thing, then you're going to get a very similar experience with the Oculus, but you're going to have access to these first-party Oculus games. And from what I've played so far, some of those games are really, really good. So I think that's kind of the thing you have to ask yourself is, do you have the space for the room scale setup? And if you do, are you more interested in kind of, wacky kind of, like lots of different kinds of experiences? Or are you more interested in kind of, these, usually higher budget, but kind of more straight by the line, straight-laced kind of more typical games? And there's an appeal for both, I think. So that's just my early impressions, and I'm sure you guys will get more and more as we kind of go through this. So
yeah, well, now you'll be able to look at both sides. So
yep.
Cool, man. Well, we'll wrap this up. I'll just quickly go through my game. It's obviously not as exciting as yours, but I played Ironwolf VR over the last week, and I was just browsing Steam, and I filtered the HTC Vive games by user reviews, and this one popped up near the top. I think it might have actually been on the first, if not the first, and the second page.
I think I've seen it too.
So yeah, I just figured I'd give it a shot and see what it was all about. Just because, I mean, if it's got that many user reviews, it's got to be something decent. So the premise of the game is that you are in like a World War I or World War II submarine, and you are. It's actually quite complicated because you have to go through. You learn how to actually move the submarine. You're the only one there, but you're able to move the submarine. You're able to go to two different rooms within the submarine, just the front and the back, and do certain things in each. So like being able to drive it, being able to determine its depth within the water and moving, and just all those types of things. Being able to understand the radar. It actually took me a little bit to get started with it. And then in the other room, you can use the periscope, fire torpedoes, which is pretty cool. And then you can actually, if you're surfaced, go above deck and use a gun to shoot down aircraft. And the sense of presence in there was fantastic. I mean, when you're inside like the submarine, it feels almost somewhat claustrophobic because it's just you in there, and like I said, the presence it feels great, and you kind of get that natural experience while you're in there. learning the game took me a little while, but it's fun, and it has a multiplayer aspect too, which I'd love to be able to get involved with. Every time I jumped in, though, there weren't any other players. So if you guys are out there playing this game, let me know, and I'd love to be able to jump on and try it from a multiplayer aspect, just because I feel like it's much easier in that sense, rather than having to do everything at the same time, especially, driving and shooting. Because you have to almost go to like two separate different rooms for that, which gets tedious, is the word maybe that I'm looking for. But it's a cool game. It's $20 early access, $20 US. So I don't know where that price point stands for people, but it's a game that I think definitely has potential. So if you're into that type of experience or game, I would definitely recommend it. And I would say that it's probably very unique at this point, or the first of its kind, if you're looking for something that's like, nautical battles or, submarines and things like that. And it is done very well. And, just looking at the Steam store, like, it looks like the dev has been adding some stuff quite regularly to it. And, people seem to really enjoy it. I just want to see some of these people online in the game.
Yeah. Just curious. When you're getting into different vehicles and whatnot, like, do you sit down or?
No, it's all standing. Okay. But you're able to move around the room, which is cool because, there's a lot of different buttons and levers that you actually need to learn how to press, and also need to learn how to actually go about moving the ship. And this actually takes me to just a quick point about education in VR. Like I it's not like I was like actively studying, but I felt like if I had to do this quite a bit, it's almost like virtual training for being able to pilot or move one of these types of ships. You know what I mean? And granted, like it's like an old school submarine, but you can easily replicate that for newer aircraft or newer things. And I haven't played Elite Dangerous, but I'm sure like that could be used almost as a training, a flight simulator of some sorts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it was just cool to see it in that context. And like I said, it's a lot of fun. And I think it would be even more fun with the, with the multiplayer. But I think my favorite part was actually the air to sea battles, like where you're on top and just firing this kind of, I don't know, it's just a simple anti-aircraft gun on top of the submarine, and these planes are just kind of flying overhead, and they approach you, and the shooting isn't that easy because it's just like one bullet at a time. It's almost like you're firing a tank shot, and so to actually shoot them down, it feels so vindicating or something. You know what I mean? It just feels so like, it just feels awesome like when you actually get it. Yeah, when you get the hit, and then like I hit the aircraft as it was flying overhead, and then you see it just like crash into the water next to you, and like that to me was a great sense of immersion, because I was like, oh, holy crap, that was, that actually felt really cool, just the entire experience of it.
That's really cool.
But yeah, like I said, I would definitely recommend checking that out if you're into that type of game, or if you're looking for something new and have some extra dollars that you want to spend to support a dev and a cool game. I would say that this is one that stands out, and I can see why it's gotten the reviews that it has.
Okay, very awesome.
Well, man, but yeah, with that, I would say we can wrap up for the week.
Yep. No, I think those are both. That sounds really cool to me. I'm gonna have to go check it out. So.
Cool, man. Well,
I haven't actually. I don't have any. I personally don't have any like vehicular combat type games that I've really tried.
Yeah, so. you should give it a shot. It's worth checking out. And if you don't like it, you can always return it per Steam's policy. So. Although I don't want to encourage that. I'm just saying that. It's it is available, because the thing is, it might not be for everyone. So, but if it is, like I said, it's a cool enough experience and unique enough that I think people would definitely get a kick out of it, or at least be able to diversify their experiences across, what VR has to offer right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and wrap up. And that's all I got. How about you?
Yeah, no, same. And I think, next week will be interesting, I think. So.
Yeah, we're working on that episode for you guys with the going back through and revisiting some of the games that have been updated. So hopefully we'll be able to get that out for next week. But yeah, with that, we are on iTunes, Stitcher, and of course on YouTube. So definitely come say hello, leave us a review, and
and if you if you guys want to leave, different titles that you
if there's titles to check out,
looking at, like, not even just new titles, but like Zain had mentioned, we're thinking about, going back to old titles to revisit them with new updates. So if you've been playing a game that we've already reviewed in the past that has received major updates in the last few months, and you want us to take a look at it, just put it in a comment on the YouTube video or something like that, and we can add it to the list of games that we're going to be looking at. So.
That is actually a fantastic idea. So let's it's good thing you mentioned that. So let's go ahead and do that. If there's a game that like Ronnie was saying that has been updated and we've covered it, or maybe we haven't covered it, but it just has gotten some updates over time, definitely let us know. YouTube is his place, and we'll be going through that list and share with you what we come across for next week. So with that being said, Ronnie, man, have a great rest of your week, and you guys all do the same.